Hello, welcome to Pre-Maths Lessons, and today we're going to be looking at 10 common mistakes that student makes and how to avoid those common mistakes when you sit in your GCSE Maths exam. The first one we're going to be looking at is confusing between off and off. Thinking that examiner made mistakes in the paper, misreading the questions, different meaning of the word estimates, unnecessary evaluation of indices, simplifying fully and factorizing fully and not doing that properly. Number of marks means the number of answers. Again, not true. Not taking hints when we give them. So when the examiner gives you the hint and not using those hints, and using ruler and compasses, not making use of those, and assuming things that are not true or not there. Okay. So those are the common mistakes that people make. And so let's just get through that quickly and then see how you can avoid that when you sit in the exams. So first one, generally question comes up across like these. Okay. Work out the 20% of 14,000. Like majority would be able to do that very quickly. You work out the 10%, which is 1400, and work out another 10%, that's also 1400, and when you add them together that gives you 20%, that adds up to 2800. And if you write that answer down, you would get those 2 marks that you deserve. But people use that as saying work out 20% off 14,000. So when you take the 20% off 14,000 and you get the answer 11,200, which is not correct, and that's what you need to be. Generally, they will not ask you that question. Okay, so you need to make sure that you keep that in mind. Saying 20% of 14,000 means you're only working out 20%. So here's a tip that you need to look through. Number of students, instead of working out 20% off, they use 20% off, and they end up with getting the answer 11,200 rather than getting that 2,800. If the student shows working out 20% off, they are likely to only lose 1 mark, but it is unnecessary mark to lose. And in the example, that's what exactly the student has done. So make sure you avoid doing that to get the marks that you deserve. Thinking the examiner made a mistake on the paper. That's another mistake that student makes. They think the examiner must have made a mistake, which is not the case. So if that's the case, don't think that way and answer the question again. Look through it again. Mainly you have to see it when they ask you to show something. So in this case, you have to show that x is equal to 100. That means x is 100. This is 100. You just have to show how is that 100. Okay. So if you don't get to see that x is 100, you keep trying at it until you get that x to be 100. And you can write on the diagram, that's fine, or you can write here next to a diagram, or you can write your answers in the given space below. So here, what I would do is consider that to be 70. Why? Because vertically opposite angles are equal. And now if I know that's 70, then this is ABCD is a quadrilateral. That's 90. So all I have to do is add these 3 angles and take away from 360. So I'm doing 360, take away 280, which gives me 80 degrees. So what that gives me is this angle here is 80 degrees, because the angles in a quadrilateral always add up to 360. And there you go. It's a straight line. So you got 80 and then x has to be 100. So all I'm doing is 180, take away 80, which is 100. And I've proved it that x is equal to 100 because the quadrilateral is 360 and that's a straight line. But don't think that's the 70 and that would be corresponding angle because of these 2 lines here. Those 2 lines are not parallel, so this cannot be corresponding angle, and you cannot say x is 70, it has to be 70. They must have made a mistake here. No. Square 2 small sides, so we do 6 squared and 8 squared. Add them together. That gives you square of the biggest side. The biggest side is one that's opposite of 90 degree angle, opposite of the right angle. So that should give you 2y whole squared. And then we expand these things and say we got 36 plus 64 and expand that, it gives you 4y squared. And at this point, I know this is where the mistake is. Should have had 2y times 2y, which gives you 4y squared. And then you can say, okay, that's 100 equal to 4y squared. Then what we need to do, okay, we divide both sides by 4. And here they added 2, which is wrong because this is 2 times y squared. That gives you 100. So on one of the y squared should be 50. In this case, one of the y squared going to be 25 because you're dividing both sides by 4. You get 25 is equal to y squared, and that gives me y to be plus or minus 5. But the length here, that y is a length, then it has to be plus 5 because you can't have a negative length. Okay, and that's the only reason we only have to write positive 5 there. This would lose all the marks. Okay, they wouldn't just put the question here for you to saying, yeah, Tommy's done it right. It's not wrong. You have to find a mistake. They wouldn't just ask you the question and say what's mistake they made, what errors he made in the working out. To find that error, you need to answer that question. Another example, same. Jenny buys 5 rulers and 2 pens. She works out how much she should pay. Jenny's total is wrong. Work out what mistake has she made. So pay attention to the word here. It's just a mistake. What mistake has she made? Include correct answer and the totals. 2 marks. So I would go through it to find the mistakes. 5 times 85. I can use the grid method or any multiplication method to work out what the 5 times 85p going to be. And then we go multiplying it by 5. So that's 85p multiplied by 5. We get 400p and 25p. So 425p, that's what we get. And this is what £4.25 is. So that's correct. 2 lots of 350 will give me £7 and not £6 and 10p. Okay. So 2 lots of £3.50 will give you £7. So that's £7. And we found the mistake here. And then obviously the total would be different. £7 and £4 gives you 11, and 25p gives you 11.25p. And that's all you had to do. So you found the mistake and you worked through that. You don't have to really go through and look at deeply. You can answer the question because 2 pens cost £3.50 each, and he's buying 2 pens and 5 rulers, which is correct as well. So just the mistake was this one here. So we're only looking for one mistake. It's not plural, it's just a singular word, mistakes. And we found that one mistake and we found the total. So you get 1 mark and 1 mark there. Here it would lose 1 mark because they found the mistake, but then they made a mistake. 85 times 5 is not 650. It's still £4.25p. Again, focus on the part that they say mistakes. Okay, it's the singular thing. The wording of the question has mistakes as a singular word rather than plural. Okay, so encourage students to read the questions carefully to determine how many mistakes there are. So there was only one mistake and not mistakes. Misreading the question, and that's really common. This is the one that you have to be really careful. So if you're reading the question, you can say bug the question. So bug means the box the command words. So what they actually asking you to do, underline the key information, key things, and glance over the question every time you're trying to answer the question. Look back at the question, see what the question's asking you to do. So don't just read it once and get on with it. Read it again and then get through it. As soon as you've done the first part, go back to the question, read it again, see if you're still on the right track. So that's the technique that you probably learn across all the other subjects as well. It is really important to read the question carefully and not misreading it. Everything, not just a question, what question asking you, but also number as well. Some people copy the wrong numbers down, read the questions correctly or incorrectly, and then copy the wrong numbers down when they're answering the question. So that's why it's really important that while you're doing the question, you look back at the questions while you're answering it. So here's the question saying a college has 105 teachers. So I got the important things underlined. 19 more females. Again, that's really important. Then the male teachers. What proportion of the teachers are male? So this is the command word. We're looking for the proportion of female teachers. what proportion of the teachers are female. So we're looking at that part. Okay, so make sure you read the question carefully. So if you have 105 teachers and 19 more female teachers, that means I have some male teachers, we don't know what that is, and then the female teacher. That's it. You can have male teacher plus the female teacher, and that should give you 105. So M stands for number of male teacher, F stands for number of female teacher. Now I know the female teachers are 19 more than whatever that number is. So I can replace that female teacher. Number of female teachers should be the M plus 19. So I would have M plus 19, because that female teachers are male teacher plus the 19 more. And that should give you 105. Now that's really straightforward, okay? If I take away 19 from both sides, then I know what two lots of male teachers going to be. So take away 19 from that, we get male teacher plus male teacher is 86. Now obviously if you two lots of male teacher is 86, then number of male teachers is going to be 43. We're dividing both sides by 2 in a way. 2m is 86, so m is 43. But that's not the question. I look back at the question again. What proportion of the teachers are female? So if males are 43, then you add 19 to this, will give you 62. There are 62 female teachers. Again, that's not what the question is. Question is what proportion of the teachers are female. So if you want to write the proportion, you write it as a fraction, 62 out of 105. Out of the 105, 62 teachers are female. So if you can follow the students working, we'll award appropriate method marks for working shown, even if the value is wrong. Okay, so majority lose 1 mark here. And majority of the marks is lost if you're just saying 19 female teacher and you write it as a 19 out of 105, because that's not even a really complicated question. So you would lose majority of the marks here if you just not read the question properly rather than reading 19 more and you read that as a 19 female teacher. Then you lose all the marks. Another question like that, when it comes to the reading the question, saying, okay, choose 2 cards there when you to make the answer whole number, to calculation to be whole number. So we adding them, and those 2 cards should give you whole numbers. So I can put those 8.6 and 0.4, and these are generally done in hurry. And then you got 2 marks there. And as soon as you move on to the second question, choose 2 cards to make the answer calculation as large as possible. Majority focus on that and put 2 numbers, right? Would put 8.6 and 6.3, but not looking at the question. Here, the question has negative sign, so you need to do the takeaway. You're choosing 2 cards again, but this time we're taking away 1 from the other and you get the answer. So here I would use 8.6 and the smallest number, which is 0.27, and then the answer I get is 8.33. So it is still important to complete all 3 cards, but read the question really carefully, because it would be really easy to make that mistake and choose 2 biggest cards. That's why read the questions carefully. Different meaning of estimate. Now generally when you're looking at this, estimate means you round number to one significant figure and work out the calculation, and you can see that's the calculation you have to do for this part of the question here, by rounding each number to nearest 10. Now this is again slightly different. Why? Because it's telling you exactly what you need to do. You need to round each number to nearest 10. So that's the first sort of instruction that you have to follow. And then estimate would be the next command word. Value of 262 divided by 19.8. And that's what straightforward it is. You have to round it to 10 and then estimate. If this box is missing, then you always round it to one significant figure when it comes to estimate. Why? Because if you only have 1 digit with the numbers, or 1 digit with the numbers, then it's easier to work with that in your head. You have to know your up to 10 times table to work out the answer to these questions, and that's the reason we always round it to one significant figure. So here we can do that as a 260 divided by 20 and you get 13, and that's done. Whereas the question 2 here is a completely different way of using the word estimate. So we're still using the estimate, but we're looking at estimate of the mean numbers of minutes. So that means we're trying to find the mean value and estimating that value, mean value. Now this one, two different way people go through it, okay? They can work out absolutely correctly and then do that, or they can work out these numbers here and estimate them beforehand. But the reason we use the word estimate is a completely different to what we had to do for the question about that. Here, we got these 12 trains, okay? We're trying to work out the mean value, and the mean value comes from adding all the numbers up and divide by how many there are. So there are 20 trains, that's what we given here. 20 trains, and how many of those trains are late and how many minutes they are late by. So if you record those information, we're saying these 12 trains were late between 0 to 5. Can anyone tell me how many minutes they were exactly late, these 12 trains? That those 12 trains, all 12 of them could have been 1 minute late, or all 12 of those trains could have been 4 minutes late, or 12 of those trains could have been 2 minutes late. Okay? We don't know, and that's why the word estimate comes. What we're going to do, we're going to use the midpoint here, saying that's the estimate we're going to use. We're saying these 12 trains going to be 2.5 minutes late, and that's the estimated value. So that's what the word estimate is being used. Estimated mean is another way they can use, and because of that, this now anything you get would be estimated. Why? Because we're saying, assuming that these 12, all of those 12 trains is 2.5 minutes late, or it automatically evens out to 2.5. Then this one, same thing, 7 trains would be 7.5 minutes late, and this one train would be 12.5 minutes late. So now you can work out the total times these 20 trains were late. So 12 times 2.5 will give you 30 minutes. 7 times will give you 7.5 gives you 52.5 minutes. And that's only one train, so 12.5 minutes. And when you add them all up, we know they add up to 95 minutes of the time. So trains were late 95 minutes, and how many trains were there? 20. So if I wanted to work out the estimated mean, why are we using again word estimated? Because these times are estimated. We're saying they roughly have to be somewhere in the middle. Now this one train could have been only 11 minutes late, but we're estimating it. We're finding is rough time. Could have been 14 minutes late, but we're estimating it to be 12.5. And that's the exact reason the word estimate is being used. So all I have to do is then do 95 divide by 20, and that gives me 4.75 minutes late. So on average, each train is 4.75 minutes late, and that's the mean average. And we use the word estimated mean. Estimated mean is 95 divided by 20, and it's 4.75 minutes. You can see they estimated these numbers here, 30, 50, and 10. And that's wrong. You should keep that exact. So they lose marks here as well. 90 divided by 20, and then you lose mark. Another question where they kept the numbers same all the way up to here, 4.75. They got the same answer, and then at the final place they rounded it to 5. Again, that's wrong as well. So you possibly lose 1 mark for the accuracy, but you already had the correct answer here, so you might not. That again depends on examiner. So you have to be careful and not round it when you're talking about the means. Means generally going to be these decimal numbers, because it's evening it out all the way across. Say these responses have also been rounded, but only at the very end, so you can see a fully correct answer before rounding and award full marks. So you have to award full marks for this case. Okay, that's examiner telling me to do that. Otherwise I wouldn't. I would take 1 mark off for rounding that to 5. If the examiner telling me to do that, I will give you those 3 marks. And everyone follows these mark schemes. Unnecessary evaluation of indices. I mean, you don't have to work out what 3 to the power 12 is. Like this person must have spent about half an hour to do that if it's non-calculator paper. And it does seem like it would be on non-calculator paper. So use the rule of indices, which you would have learned at some point in time. So if you're dividing the index number with the same base, you take away the power. So you do the bracket first, which gives you 3 to the power 7, because 12 take away 5 is 3 to the power 7. Then again dividing, but now you need to do this bracket first here. 3 squared times 3. If you're multiplying with the same base, you add the power. This one has power 1. So 3 to the power 2 add 1 gives you 3 cubed. Now again dividing, so you take away the power, which gives me 3 to the power 4. 7 take away 3 gives you 4. Now you can evaluate this, because they're asking you to find the value. So what's the value of 3 to the power 4? Which is a lot better than trying to work out 3 to the power 12. And it can be really quick. That 3 marks can be done within a minute, which turns out to be 81, because 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 times 3 gives you that 81 that we need. And that all that working out, and you end up getting just 1 mark. So here's the correct way of doing it, and you can see how quickly this person's done it. They've done the first bracket, second brackets, and then this division. It gives you 3 to the power 4, and you get full marks for that, getting 81. Simplify fully or factorizing fully. Now this question possibly be in the higher tier paper, but what you need to do if you're trying to work out the answer to this one, you need to simplify that. Simplify. If you're doing foundation, most likely you'd ignore this, okay? This would be near the grade 5 question. If you're doing higher, you're most likely to do this without fail, okay? And if you're saying simplifying fully, you factorize top, factorize bottom. There has to be something common between them. These are difference of 2 squared and not just a quadratic expression, which can be factorized into x plus 7 and x plus 2. These two numbers multiply to get you 14, 7 times 2, and when you add them you get 9. So that's the top one done. And bottom one is the difference of 2 squares, so you got the x minus 2 and x plus 2. Now they both have x plus 2 in common. So those brackets cancel out, you're left with x plus 7 over x minus 2, and that's your answer, that's it. And it's fully simplified here. Again, not cancelled it out, so you still get 1 mark for simplifying, factorizing it anyway. Another question similar to that is factorize this. So what we can do is can just factorize y out, then you're not fully factorizing it. Why? Because there's 24 and 20 have 4 in common. So when you're doing these kind of questions, I always do this area problem. Okay, where we know the area 24 y squared and 20y, and that's negative. We want to make this rectangle as high as possible. Okay, so we're saying, okay, what's the biggest number common between 20 and 24? So when you multiply these numbers, you have the same number that you have to multiply. So the biggest number that goes into 24 and 20 is 4, and y squared have y, that's common in both of them. Now 4 times what gives you 24? We said 6. And y times what gives you y squared? We said y. And then 4 times what gives you negative 20? We said negative 5. And y times 20 is negative 20y. So we don't have to have y here. So that's your answer. 4y times 6y minus 5. So the correct answer would have been that. Okay. If you're saying, okay, 2 marks and asking you to list all the factors of 18. Just because it's a 2 mark question doesn't mean there's only 2 answers. That's what this part is telling you to say. Okay, number of marks doesn't equal to number of the correct values. So just because it's 3 marks, you don't have to stop after you find the 2 factors, 1 and 18. You have to find all the factors. You probably get 1 mark for getting 3 correct factors or 4 correct factors. Most likely do 3 correct factors, you get 1 mark, another one for all 6 of them correct, you get 2 marks. So we can say 2 and 9, 3 and 6. So these are all the factors of 18. And then if you get 3 of these correct, you get 1 mark, and all of them correct, you get 2 marks. Another example, list the prime numbers between 40 and 50. Again, there's 2 marks, doesn't mean there's only 2 numbers between 40 and 50, that's prime. So you can look through that and you say 41 is a prime number, 43 is a prime number, and 47 is a prime number. So again, if you miss one of them out, you lose 1 mark, and if you miss 2 of those out, you lose both of those marks. Generally, that's how marking is going to work. So these are 2 marks for 3 answers. Another example, x squared is equal to 196. Okay, fair enough, straightforward. The square root of x squared is x, and you do square root of 196, square root both sides, and if you just write 14, you lose mark. Why? Because when you square root a number, you get 2 different answers. One is a positive 14 and one that's negative 14. So you have to include positive and the negative 14 to get those 2 marks. The only time you ignore the negative numbers when we're talking about the lengths, like we looked at earlier in this question. Okay, when we're looking at those hypotenuse in the right angle triangle, that was length, so we ignore the negative 5. The same thing, we can't ignore it. We have to include that negative 14 to get full 2 marks here. Why? Because negative 14 times negative 14 is also 196. Because negative and negative gives you positive. When you multiply 2 negative numbers, you get positive answer. Not taking hints when given. So think about it this way, okay? Here's a question that's been given to you. So a shop sells ice creams in 4 flavors, vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, and mint. And if you're getting 2 scoops of ice creams, what are the possible options there are? Okay, and you can have the 2 same flavors or the different flavors. So you can have vanilla and vanilla, you can have strawberry and strawberry, chocolate and chocolate. Now the hint that they gave you, instead of writing vanilla as a full form, you can use the letter V. Instead of writing strawberry, you can use S, C, and M to describe each one of those combinations. Or rather than me going through strawberry, strawberry, vanilla, vanilla, you can do VV, SS, CC, MM on all those. And to do that, we can draw a sample space diagram where you get 2 options. So for group 1, you will have vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, and mint. And same thing for the second group, vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, and mint. And you can see there are going to be 16 different outcomes here. And it wouldn't take that long to complete that 2 mark question. If you were to write all of those in full form, it'll take you a lot more than 2 minutes. So like this person here, spent a long time and not even completed 16 responses. Spent time, just crossed them off, and then wrote it down again in words. So don't do that. You can use these, and you don't use. This person wouldn't have got full marks because he missed out 6 different options. There's only 10 options that they covered. So here's a 2-way table that you could have used. 4 flavors that way, 4 flavors that way, and we got these all 16 different combination of 2 scoops would have worked. Another example, and this is about the bills, and this is where people generally make mistakes of not knowing how to actually look at the bank statements or the bills. Okay, so here they're giving you balance of £212 and 48 pence. This grayed out area, you don't need to fill those in. That's already been filled out, saying you don't have to fill anything on these gray area. Only numbers I need is these 2. So balance after you get charged £128 and 39p for council tax, and then after balance after you get your salary of £856 and 21p. That's all they're asking you to do. So if my starting balance, so when I look at my bank account at the end of the month, is 212, and then on the 14th of December 2016, I have to pay council tax. Remember, even if you're not sure what debit and credit is, look at the description of the item. Council tax. Does that give you money, or you have to give money to someone else? It goes out of your account. So council tax will go out of your account. So all I have to do is do 212. And when you put that in the calculator, we get £84 and 9p. And obviously now that's how much you left once you pay the council tax. But luckily on the very next day we get the salary of £856, and that gets credited into your account, and you add that on to £84 and 90. It gives you 940.3. But since we're talking about money, you have to write down it always to 2 decimal places. Why? Because your money will go up to 99p and then next pound. So you always write it at 2 decimal places. when you're talking about money, and you have to be correct up to 2 decimal places. So these are those 2 marks that you will get. Didn't have to put anything here. Don't put the random numbers around here in the grey area. Here again, the hints that they give you. Okay. Another hint that they give you is saying here, which may be written on the diagram. You must show your working out, which may be written on the diagrams. You can write it on the diagrams. That saves you a lot of time. If I have to say any one of these angle is same, if I have to write it down underneath it, I need to use these 3-letter notation to write that angle down. So for example, angle BAF is equal to 24 degrees. Now if I wanted to say this angle also 24 degrees, I have to say FDC is 24 degrees. And why? Because they are subtended by this same arc or same chord BC, from there to there, from there to there. And that's why these 2 angles are same. So if I just write 24 degrees on here, because they say which may be on the diagram. Okay, working, you can show it on the diagram. And that's fine. It's perfectly okay to do that and you get 1 mark. Another mark is this fact here that's been given to us. This line here, this line tells you these 2 angles are exactly the same, which means I can write down the working out still. I'm doing 180 take away 24, and that gives me 156. Okay, so I need to split 156 between these 2 angles here. So if I split 156 between these 2, we get 78. So I get 78 here, 78 here. So that angle there is 78. If I write that down here, 78, and this is where it comes from, I know now that there is a straight line here. 78 plus 2x plus x gives me 180 degrees. And that's been given to you in the question here. AFC is a straight line. This line here is a straight line. So I'm saying 78 plus 3x is equal to 180. So if I take away 78 from 180, I get 102, right? And 102, which is same as 3x. So I need to divide 102 into 3 equal parts to work out what x is. So 102 divided by 3 is 35, I think, or 34. So x is equal to 34. And that's all you had to do. So again, remember, by using these diagrams and writing it on the diagrams, we save a lot of time. Otherwise, this would be slightly confusing if you just try to write it down on there. So use the fact or hints that they give you on the exam here. So use this fact here so you can write it on the diagram, and that saves you a lot of time. So it says, if the question says you can write it on the diagram, it's a big hint that is probably be the easiest way to show they're working out. Okay. Lots of question involves angle, which can give student marks for work they do on the diagram, like I showed you earlier. Another question on the diagrams that's been given to you has been cut into the quarters, 4 parts. So one whole thing's been cut into 4 parts. So you know that's 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter, 4 quarter, 5 quarter, 6 quarter, 7 quarter, 8 quarters. And you can look at it that way. So 1 and a quarter would be here. And the half would be between 1 and 0. So that's a half. We've been asked to work out the fraction that's halfway between a half and a 1 and a quarter, which is, so that's not in a halfway, that's not a halfway. We know it's going to be this one here. And if we know it's that one there, then we can work out exactly what that one's going to be. So let's cut every single one of these into those gaps. So now from 0 to 1 we have 8 gaps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each gap is 1/8. So this is your 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and 7/8. So that's the fraction that we wanted, 7/8, and it's done. So it's so much easier to just use these lines to work out, and it's 3-mark questions. So as long as I marked each one of those, I would probably be getting those answers saying this is half and this is 1 1/4. And so that's why this middle number here, or even if you just mark it on the fraction line, you will get some marks. That's what it says. In this example, we help by putting the scales on the question about the halfway point, using the scales was good way of getting the path marks if the student couldn't complete the whole question. So if you use the question scales, you still get marks for that. And that's 3-mark question as well. Using ruler and compasses. So using ruler and compasses, so in this case here, let's say, I'm not going to do that right now, I'm just going to show you where the marks comes from here. So saying A is less than 4 centimeter away from A. Sorry. To draw a region which is less than 4 centimeter away from A. So we need to draw the circle that's in the 4 centimeter area. Okay. And then nearer to B than C. So if you have B and C, you need to go towards B. So you need to draw the line which is exactly the same distance away from B and C. And then you look at the line that's toward or area towards the B. So first response is that. Person then 4 centimeter lines. Another quick tip here. These gaps are generally drawn at 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter grid. This is what is generally been given to you as. This is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter grid. So you can see there's 4 centimeter circle there. That's from A, and you've done the B and C bisector. Perpendicular bisector from B and C. So any points on this line here is going to be exactly the same distance away from B and C. So if you put any points on that line, that would be equal distance from B and C. So any points above those lines are closer to B than C. So we need to look at the region R here, which is this area up to the line and within the circle. So that's the region that satisfies both of those conditions, and you get full 3 marks. Whereas this person here done exactly the same thing but didn't use ruler and compass, you get 0 marks here. Have the right idea, you know you need to do the circles. That's 4 centimeter around A, and then you need to do the angle bisector, which comes from using the compass. You mark open the compass, mark above, mark below. Same thing from B, mark above, mark below. But you would get 0 marks for not using the compass and the rulers to draw those straight lines, because this is not how you expect. Even though you have a really good idea how to do that question, still get 0 marks. So please use compass and show your construction marks. So those arcs needs to be shown, don't rub it off when you draw the straight lines, you would lose marks. And assuming things that are not there and is true. So that's one of the questions that I already looked at, I think. No, we haven't looked at it, but there. So this question here, the people might assume here, this triangle here that's given to you and saying perimeter is 32 centimeter. If the perimeter is 32 centimeter, we don't know really anything about this triangle so far. This could be 10, this could be 9, this could be whatever that left over then. Okay, but we don't know anything. We don't know anything. But people would generally assume that this all 3 lengths going to be exactly the same, and end up doing 32 divide by 3 and say this is going to be 10.6 for each one of those lengths, which is not true. Okay. This one, however, the square has a perimeter 40 centimeter. As soon as the word square comes, then you can assume that yes, these all sides are equal, because that what square is. All 4 sides are equal in a square. And the perimeter is 40 means every single length is 10, 10, and 10. But we don't know anything about this triangle, so you can't assume that. And if you do that, you lose marks. Even though you might get the right answer, you still lose marks. So here, like, two sides of the shapes are put together to make pentagon. Now triangle fit exactly on top of the square and it makes a pentagon. So that triangle length that we're missing here has to be 10. Work out the perimeter of the pentagon. So we're losing 10 from the square. So we got these 10, 10, and 10. That's 30 centimeter. We're losing that 10 because it's obviously we're removing it to make the pentagon. So if you lose 10 centimeter from 32 centimeter, you're left with 22 centimeters. So these 2 lengths has to be 22. Again, there's nothing that tells you that these 2 lengths are exactly the same size. So if you put 11 there and 11 there, you lose mark. Okay, but you have to assume the fact that those 22 centimeter comes from these 2 lengths. Without putting this 11 and 11 there, then you don't lose mark. If you put 11 there, I seen that question. If you put 11 there, you ended up losing marks. Okay, even though you get the right answer saying this 30 plus that 11 gives you 52 centimeter of the perimeter for this pentagon, you lose mark if you put 11 there, because there's nothing that suggests these two lines are same length. All we had to do is the 30 add 22 to get you 52 centimeter, and that gives you that full 4 marks in this question here. This 4 marks. So this is one of the response. They lose marks by doing that. Lose marks because obviously they wouldn't even get the right answer. So hopefully from this video you would have discovered some of the common mistakes people make in the exams and avoid it, or help you avoid it in future. So when you do your proper exams, do not make these mistakes. Please like and share with everyone. Okay, and thank you for watching this video. Thank you.